question is that this House endorses paper 15 of 2018 on white paper on the ElderShield Review Committee's report as a basis for designing CareShield Life to strengthen our social safety net by providing Singaporeans with basic protection for their long-term needs in a scheme that's inclusive, affordable and sustainable. Dr. Chia.
Mr. Speaker, many of us may take our health for granted, but I would submit that many of us may take our mobility and individual independence for granted even more so. This morning, many of us would have gotten out of bed, had our breakfast, dressed ourselves, maybe even gone and have a shower, did some toileting. But we don't often give these actions a second thought. But we can lose all of this and become disabled and dependent, sometimes suddenly, catastrophically, such as after a stroke. My late grandmother was 70 years old, and she was one of the most active individuals you would ever have met. She was still working, and she would always walk instead of taking the bus. One afternoon, after an afternoon nap, she found that she could no longer do any of these things. She couldn't walk by herself, she couldn't take a bus, she couldn't feed herself or even go to the toilet by herself. And this was all in a moment, in the matter of a few seconds. Or it could happen after a terrible accident, such as with a spinal cord injury. Sometimes the disability may come slowly, insidiously, such as with chronic nerve or muscle diseases, and sometimes through mental problems, such as dementia. But all of these could lead us to greater dependence on other people for our everyday activities. And so, Mr. Speaker, I feel that the enhancement of ElderShield to CareShield Life is timely and significant, as it constitutes an important piece of our social safety net, which until now, I would submit, has been deficient in terms of the adequacy of our national long-term disability insurance system. In January this year, the GPC for Health submitted its recommendations on enhancing ElderShield to the Ministry of Health, and we note that our recommendations are broadly in line with those made by the ElderShield Review Committee. I would like to begin by quoting from our paper by stating the principal considerations for our recommendations. Number one, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong described ElderShield as the one remaining piece that is needed to consolidate the progressive enhancements to our social safety net. And hence the GPC believes that in order for it to fulfill its function as a cornerstone of our social security apparatus, ElderShield coverage for our population should be universal. Number two, as for any social welfare program, a careful balance has to be struck between increasing and expanding benefits so that the program remains relevant and useful, and yet keeping the scheme both affordable and sustainable for the long term. Number three, if ElderShield is to be universal with mandatory enrollment, then the GPC believes that the government will have to provide targeted financial assistance to ensure that all Singaporeans will be able to participate in this social security program, which is designed to increase peace of mind in the event of severe disability. I have three comments and clarifications. First, the GPC concurs that payouts be adjusted to keep pace with general and medical inflation. And in order for this to be financially sustainable, CareShield Life premiums will also need to be adjusted. Could the Minister elaborate on the mechanism through which payouts and premiums are determined and adjusted to ensure that the system remains fiscally relevant yet affordable for all Singaporeans? For instance, when will we know that $600 a month is no longer adequate, and how much should the minimum payout be revised to? Two, in our report, we recognize that the actuarial basis for the higher premiums that women pay, but we would like to repeat our call that this gender differentiation be removed, in line, for example, with other insurance programs such as medical and hospitalization insurance, such as MediShield, for instance. I note also that Singaporean women tend to have lower average MediSave balances than men, so I hope that consideration be given to provide additional premium support for women as well. Number three, I hope that the government will remain focused on investing or continuing to invest in ILTC, intermediate and long-term care infrastructure and manpower, and focus on keeping such services affordable. CareShield Life is a means of financing ILTC for the severely and permanently disabled. But such services are also necessary for those who are less severely disabled or thankfully only temporarily disabled. If we do not keep ILTC costs in check, then payouts will be unable to keep up and CareShield Life will become ineffective. I hope the Ministry will also share with this House how it intends to keep ILTC costs affordable for all and also to support care within the community. The prospect of becoming significantly disabled in our lifetime is very real, and by some estimates may be as high as 1 in 2. But the risk is often underestimated or discounted, and quite understandably, particularly by the young. I hope that as with the rollout of MediShield Life and the PG package, the government will have a comprehensive communications plan to help Singaporeans understand the scheme better. I also believe that there have been cases in the past where ElderShield policyholders who are able to actually make claims when they became disabled have not done so because they were simply not aware that they could do so, or even that they were on the scheme. No stone unturned to encourage those who are currently not included but eligible for CareShield Life to join the scheme by not only providing incentives but also making the process as smooth as possible. For those who are already disabled but cannot be covered by CareShield Life, I am sure the government will continue to provide the necessary assistance and support to them. And thank you. I support the motion.